How you doing, guys? I am back with another video, and in this one we're going to be taking a look at a VESC app tutorial, how to change settings on your board for complete noobs or for people specifically that have brought a board based around VESC. So let's talk about some of the boards that are on the market at the moment. There's multiple different boards out there that you could go out and purchase. You've got the Evolve, Ace-Deck, X-Way. There's multiple boards out there. But there's also boards like the Board Society, M-Boards Endurance, M-Boards Interstellar, boards out there that have, got VESCs in them, which means you can go in and you can make changes. Every VESC tutorial I've seen out there is very, very complicated. There's nothing really designed or specifically to target people that have brought a board based around VESC that just want to know the simple settings and things that you have to change in order to make your board feel different. And so I'm going to go and talk to you in layman's terms, as simple as possible, about what settings do when you change them. And I'm going to be honest with you, there's about 4 or 5 settings, realistically, that you can change. That's all there is. 95% of what's in the VESC tool app, you'll never even need to use on your board. Some people are really deep dive and technical and get into it, and they want to change every little parameter and stuff like that. For 99% of people out there, you're not going to be doing that. You've got a VESC-based board, you just want to know, hey, my acceleration's not great, how do I change that? Simple things like that. I don't like the remote, it's got too much space between putting the throttle forwards and the board actually going. That's called deadband. There's too much of that. I just want to change that. I don't want that as much. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And it's so simple. It's really, really easy. Now, again, with VESC tool and changing settings in your board, the chances of you blowing anything up or breaking anything are very, very slim. If something normally goes wrong with something like that, it's because the motor controller is faulty or you've got a bad motor that's gone faulty. Changing settings in the VESC tool are not really going to blow anything up, especially everybody's using, the good cells now, the Molly cells. They can put out so much power that you changing settings is not going to affect your battery pack. The motors boards are shipping with now, they're capable of putting out so much power that settings that you change won't blow the motors up. So don't worry about it. Now, this is going to be a simple VESC tutorial that even Chris from Average E-Skate Reviews, he would be able to go in and program his board after watching this tutorial. So if you're watching, Chris, love you. So let's just talk a little bit about some of the boards out there. So Fred from E-Skate Uni, I've watched some of his. He's got the Board Society. It's the red one with the De Vega. I can't remember the specific name of the board, but he doesn't like the acceleration. He also doesn't like the amount of deadband that's in the remote. So Fred, if you're watching, this is going to be a perfect tutorial for you, mate. I hope to see you put a clip up on Instagram of you changing the settings and really enjoying those boards. Number one, when you buy a VESC-based board, the companies do put on there saying that the warranty will be voided. Now, that's just the same as if you went and bought a car from BMW and then you went and slapped a big turbo on it, or you done something like that, it would void the warranty. They have to do that to cover their asses. Secondly, if you're buying a VESC-based board, it's probably because you want to be able to go in and change the settings. And that's perfectly fine. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed for you to go in and tweak the board to the way that you like it. And thirdly, why do companies ship out boards with such tame settings? Now, the reason I believe they do this is they just like to keep a conservative setting in there to ship it out, because the people that are buying them are probably going to go in and change the settings and customize the board to themselves. It gives them a good starting place in order for them to customize the board. If they gave you with max settings on everything, then there probably would be no reason for you to even bother going in and changing it. So you may as well just buy a pre-production board that's already got the settings built in, that's a fast board as it is. The whole point of a VESC-based board or buying a VESC-based board is because you can go in and change settings to the way you like it. So one last thing before we jump into the tutorial. I promise you this is the last thing. Don't leave me, don't lose me on this one. Last thing is, this is just a VESC-based tutorial for people that have brought a VESC-based board. This is not about DIY, setting a board up from scratch. There are other tutorials that you can watch to see how to set that up. Then jump back to this video and you can see the settings that I'm talking about. But apart from that, I hope we're all good and clarified and everything. Let's jump into the video. So if you've already brought a board and it's got a VESC in it, the best thing you can probably do is download the VESC tool app on iOS or Android. This means that you've got your phone with you wherever you are. You can change settings on the fly, or do whatever you want to do. You don't have to worry about taking the enclosure off, connecting it to a computer. Download the VESC tool app. So I've opened the VESC tool app up on my phone now, and as you can see, there's nothing on the screen apart from VESC tool, and it says hide, device found, and scan. The reason there's nothing popped up is because my board's turned off. So I'm going to turn my board on, and you should see it pops up and recognises. If it doesn't, hit scan. Hold tight. I'll turn my board on first. And it's not popped up. It's not said anything. So I'm going to hit scan on here. And I'm going to scan BLE. Scan that. It's going to say VESC tool needs to access your location. OK. Allow while using the app. And now you can see it's popped up VESC BLE UART. Now, the reason why this is popped up and I'm able to connect over using my phone is because the VESC that I have in my board is Bluetooth capable. If when you scan, your board's turned on, nothing's popping up, that means there's not Bluetooth capable. You will need to plug it into a computer. Download the VESC tool software on your computer. It's exactly the same as the app on your phone. And then you can tweak settings that way. It is annoying, and if you don't have that, I would recommend buying a Bluetooth module for your specific VESC. Right, so now this has popped up. I am going to just hit connect. It's connecting. Now this message pops up and it says the connected VESC has an old but mostly compatible firmware. That's fine. That's not an issue. That does not mean you need to go and update the firmware. That is just letting you know you are using an older version of VESC that is compatible. You just click OK. The firmware that will be sent with your board for your motor controller will be the most up-to-date version that you can get. You don't need to change it. It's not going to give you any special settings and powers. Just don't mess about the firmware. It will cause you more problems than it will advantages. Just leave it as it is. It will work perfectly fine. So now we're greeted with this screen here. Right, so now we're on the screen. We're connected to the VESC. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, okay, that I never hear anybody talk about, and I don't know why, and is at the top here in the app, it says profiles. If you hit profile, it will tell you down the bottom here, add profile. Now, why would you want to add a profile? Well, this is your first time messing about with the VESC settings. You can add a profile with the current settings that you've already got from the manufacturer in the board. So if I add a profile, I'm just going to put at the top there where it says profile name, I'm going to put default settings, and I'm going to just hit OK. Now that has added a profile on my app for default settings. So if I add another profile and I call this playing around settings and hit OK, what I can do is I have now got two profiles set up. So the top profile is my default settings that I can use permanently. So if you can see here, we've got use until reboot or use permanently. So I'm going to hit use permanently, and it will say this is going to apply this profile permanently even after you reboot. And what reboot means is when you turn your board off and turn it back on. I'm going to hit yes. Okay. Now, if I go to the playing around settings and I hit use until reboot, okay, that has now added that setting, this profile to the VESC. So I can now go in, change settings of the board, go in, try it. If I do something wrong and it doesn't work, I can always turn the board off, turn it back on, and it will revert back to the original settings of the board. This is great because if it's your first time doing it and messing about in VESC tool, the last thing you want to do is start changing settings and then not know what happened or what the values were before, and then you're in a right pickle. So save the settings that are currently on your board when you first connect up as a profile. Use that as permanent settings until you've messed about in the play around settings and got the board and figured out how to do it. If you ever do anything wrong in that other profile, you know you can always revert back to the original settings. So next up, down the bottom right hand corner here, it will say CAN. If you hit CAN, it will scan, and now it's picked up. Now you can see on mine it's picked up U-Box 75-100 micro local, and then we've got another one which is 122. What does this mean? Because people say this side of the VESC or that side of the VESC. All it is effectively is one of those is one side of is one motor. The other one that's popped up is the other motor. When you're making changes to either one of these, you're just making changes to the motors. Okay, so you've got your left motor and your right motor. So now I know where I'm at. At the top here, if you scroll across all the way until you see motor configuration, and you'll hit that. We're only working with one motor at a time, by the way. We're not changing settings on both motors at the same time. You can't do that at the moment. You have to change settings on one motor and then swap over on that CAN button to the other motor and then change to the same values as what you did before. You've got two tabs at the top here, general and general. Leave the first tab, go down to the second tab, hit that, and then the only settings you need to worry about in here is the first one here, which is current. So you can see it says motor current max. Now, what does this actually mean? Because everybody sits there and of VESC tutorials I've seen and said, oh, I put my amps to 60 or I'm running 100 amps. But, you know, what does that actually mean? So the motor max current, that's your acceleration. That's your from 0 to say 10, 15 mile an hour acceleration. The higher that number, the faster, stronger your acceleration will be. The lower the number, the softer, the weaker your acceleration will be. I would just recommend, obviously with what I'm running here is going to be different to what you're going to have, because this is a DIY. It's going to be different to some of the boards you've got. Any of the boards that you can buy now with VESCs will be able to run up to 100 motor amps, okay? So 0 would be 0% acceleration, 100 in that box would be 100% acceleration. Like I just said, any of these boards, like the Defiant board or the M boards, will be able to go up to 100. If you are using the Interstellar or the M boards Endurance, I wouldn't put it up to 100 on that, because the 6.3, 6.8s probably would not be capable of running that much power. Revved it from a standstill, the motor will probably go, which means it doesn't like that much power. So it'd just be a case of just going in and dialing it down. It wouldn't blow your motors up. It would just make a funny noise at you and you'd know that's too much. Dial it back. So that motor current max is acceleration. 0 to 15 or 20 mile an hour-ish acceleration. Now on the next tab down, we've got motor current max brake. That is your brake. From that 0 to 20 mile an hour, that is how strong are your brakes going to be. I've found a good rule of thumb. It's never caused me any issues and I've never had any problems whatsoever, and the brakes have always been absolutely spot on, is whatever number you put in motor current max. So say you set your acceleration to 80, then you'd go into your braking and you put that to 40. I always do whatever my motor current max is, I half that for my motor brake. And I've found that gives me the best results in terms of braking performance. That's just one setting that you'd want to change in here. There's your acceleration and the low end braking. Now, if you go down, the next setting that you can mess about with is your battery current max. So what does that do? Well, once you've got that initial acceleration from that, say, 15 to 20 mile an hour point, that is going to take over, and whatever you set that to will then give you like an extra boost. So think of it as like a motocross bike. I used to love riding motocross bikes, and you'd get a power band in it. So you'd accelerate, then you'd hit that power band, you'd get that sort of extra boost. That is what that's going to be doing. I would start off low. So I would start off with, say, 25, maybe 30, and gradually increase it of increments of 5. So you can see I've got mine set to 55. If that wasn't enough and I wanted to go a bit more, set it to 60. See how it feels? If you think I could do with a bit more, set it a bit more. Again, like I said, the motor controllers, the batteries these boards are coming with, they can handle the power you're going to put. You're never going to stick that at 100 because you won't be able to handle the power. So I mean, I'm fairly good at riding, and I've got mine set at 55, and that's pretty pokey. So again, experiment with it, see what you like. But that is your mid to top range power. Now the next one is your battery current max regen. So what does that mean? Well, like on the acceleration there, this adjusts the braking force at those top end, them high end speeds and mid-range speeds. And again, the same as what I just said before, a good rule of thumb is to dial it in at 50% of whatever you've set your battery current max to. Okay, so whatever you put that, like I've got 55, I've set mine to 25, around 50%. See how it feels. You might want to up it, you might want to down it, but that is a good rule of thumb. Now, that's the only settings you need to even worry about when it comes to acceleration and braking. Acceleration off the line and mid-range power. Mid-range braking, acceleration braking, or low-end braking. That's the only settings you need to worry about when it comes to things like that. Next up, the only other setting I would change, or I would look at to see if it needs to be changed, is down in the Advanced tab. And right down the bottom here, you'll see duty cycle current limit start. So what does that mean? Well, when you power the board and it gets up to nearly top speed, instead of you going from like your full throttle, 100%, when that gets to 100% and you've hit your top speed, you're going to like hit a wall, and that's going to make you wobble. So you want to set that, and I've found that the best setting for that is 80%. Anything above that and you hit top speeds, you will get a slight wobble. So I would make sure that is set to 80%. And again, the board's already been programmed at the factory you've brought it from. You don't need to worry about any other settings. You don't even need to change that. It's just something I would recommend you having a look at to make sure that it is set to 80%, because you don't want to hit full speed, get the wobbles, come off and cause yourself an injury. So it's just something to bear in mind. And that's it. For performance features, for changing the performance of your board, that's all you need to worry about. Just remember that once you change a setting, once you've gone through and changed any of those settings on that motor, hit the CAN button, select the other motor, put the same settings into that motor, and always save. The save button is the right button. That is just a button that will allow you to save any changes that you make. And honestly, to turn for performance, that's all you need to worry about. I never go and change any other settings. You just don't need to. Like I said, 95% of the settings on VESC Tool, you don't even need to worry about. So that is it. That's performance settings. Let's talk about remote settings. Okay? So we've got the remote here. Now, what deadband is, or why you might want to change remote settings, is say when you're holding your motor controller, holding your remote, and you push forwards, you push forwards, you push forwards, you push forwards, then it starts going. And you've already gone halfway through the throttle before it even goes. That's deadband. How do you change that? So, we've talked about the motor configuration tab at the top here. We're just going to go across to app configuration. So, now we're in the app configuration part where we can change remote settings. Now, it says app to use here, which is PPM or UART. Now, depending on what your remote is connected by, if your board is using a remote that is plugged in via the UART port, that is basically a plug-and-play solution. The same as like the X-Way, the Evolve and stuff like that. You can't change any settings on it. It is what it is. So if your board's remote is connected via the PPM method, what you would do is there's a tab up the top here that says General. You would hit General, PPM. So this is here where you can see the control type. So I've got mine set to current, no reverse with brake. So what that means is I've got the acceleration. If I hold back, it won't give me any reverse features, but it will brake. If I hit that tab, I could have current smart reverse. So what that means is I can go forwards. When I brake and come to a complete stop, after about a second, it starts slowly reversing. So that's another two things that you could change in there. Positive ramping time down here. This is how long it will take for your board once you accelerate for it to give you full power. I've set mine to 0.10. It really doesn't make too much a difference, but setting it, the lower you set, I wouldn't go any lower than 0.10, but it just makes it a little bit more punchy, shall we say. Now, under the ppm tab at the top there, you've got another general tab. If you hit that and hit mapping, you will see input deadband. I've always got mine set to about 10%. I think that's a nice percentage there. But obviously, the higher the number you set it, the more you're going to be able to push that wheel forward before it starts going. The lower the number, the less input it's going to take for the board to start going. So if you've got a lot of deadband in your remote, all you need to do is go to this setting here and change it down to about 10%, and you'll be good. Don't forget to write, which is save the settings. You don't need to go in and do motor by motor. If you're in the app configuration, you can save the settings and it will save it to both sides, both motors. You don't need to go in and do it separately. That's only on the app configuration part where you're changing remote settings. When you're actually dealing with the motor and changing your acceleration and stuff like that, then you do need to go in and make sure you input the same value for either motor, shall we say. They're the only settings you really need to know. So I'm going to just do a real world example here. I'm going to disconnect from my board and we're going to go in and say, oh, I've got too much deadband in my remote. I'm throttling like this halfway down the throttle. It's doing me head in. How do I change it? Right. So you're going to go into your phone, open your VESC app, tool app up, hit connect. We'll then click OK. And we'll go across to the app. I will go to the top tab, General, hit PPM. The second tab down, I will hit that. I'll go to Mapping. And then I'll go to my deadband and say, I don't know, it was at 40%. I'm going to go 10%. And then I'm going to hit Write, which saves it. And then I'm going to go back to the start. And I'm going to disconnect. And then that's that solved. It's that easy. Again, let's do another scenario. I've got the board. I've brought the board. It's VESC based. I want to up my acceleration. Off the line performance is just, it's pretty poor. The mid range performance is great, but the off the line performance is rubbish. All right, I'm going to open my phone up. I'm going to go to VESC tool, hit connect. I'm going to click OK. We don't need to mess about with the firmware. And I'm going to hit can, just to scan for both motors. That'll scan. It's brought up both my motors. Awesome. Just click outside of that. Now I'm going to go across to my motor configuration. Okay. Again, we've got the two tabs. I'm going to go to the second tab down. I'm going to hit that and I'm going to hit current. Now we've got our motor max current. Say that was at 60. It was at 60. I wasn't happy with the acceleration. Let's take it up to 70. I would go into the top box. I would hit 70. And then I would hit save. Now, I'd also change the motor current as well, which is your braking at low speeds. And as I'm at 70, I would put, say, 35 in there. And see how that feels. I'd hit right configuration. That saves it. I'd go out, have a go on it, or if I was already out, I can connect to my phone while I'm out doing it. And then I'd jump on the board, have another go. I've done that to one motor. So what I'd have to do now is hit the can button, go over to the next motor. It will say firmware. I'd say, okay, back. Now, if I go back to that second tab and I go to current, you can see the values of that motor as the same as what they were before, and that is 125. Well, that's too powerful, or it wasn't enough. I'm going to hit 70, and I'm going to hit right configuration. And then I can just come out of this, disconnect. Now, both my motors are set to 70 rather than say there was a 60 out of the box. Again, I wouldn't recommend any of the boards that you've got. I wouldn't recommend going over 100 amps on any of the boards that you buy VESC based. I'm running 120 amps. The motor controller's not rated for 120 amps, but it's working fine. So I wouldn't recommend going over 100, but you will be safe up to 100 amps. Like I said, if your motors don't like it, they'll just make a noise at you when you accelerate hard off the line. and then you can think, okay, I need to just go in and dial that down a bit. So yeah, I mean, there, if you've brought a VESC-based board and you want to change settings, it's as simple as that. There's no other settings you need to mess about with. Again, you can mess about with the throttle curve. Again, that's another video I could probably make to talk about that. I didn't want to go too technical and lose everybody in this video. I wanted to make it as simple as possible for people that have brought a VESC-based board. You want to go in, you want to change the acceleration, you want to change the mid-range speed, or you want to adjust the remote settings. It's really, really simple. I hope this has helped some of you out there with tuning your board. I'd really like to hear in the comments down below whether or not this has helped you. If you've never decided to do it before, you followed this tutorial, you've gone and done it, let me know. I'd like to hear about it. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.